Hello and welcome to the show. And today I am joined by John Snow of Tree Checkup and Arborist Mentoring. Hopefully, John's going to share a lot of insights given his vast experience. And I'm certainly looking forward to talking to you, John. How are you?
I'm doing great, Graham. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Amazing. Now I can speak to you formally, as it were, on the podcast.
Great,
So
fantastic.
let's get started.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I'm asking everybody at the beginning of the podcast before we introduce you. And that is simply a question, in your opinion, given your experience, what separates tree service companies that thrive from those that just survive? Do you have two or three things that stand out to you?
Boy, there's a lot of things that come to mind with that, Graham. And two to three things that make a successful company thrive compared to the rest. First, number one, your staff, your team. Number two, your network. And number three, the value that you communicate to your clients.
Nice. Very concise. We'll dig into those.
Uh oh.
We lagged again, I think. They were pretty interesting, John. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your history and where you come from, and also what you're doing now as well.
Oh boy. So that's really interesting. So I became a certified arborist back in 1996, board certified master arborist, one of the very first ones back in about 2004, 2005, I think. It's been so long, I forget exactly. But yeah, it's been over 20 years as a master arborist. And in that, I've kind of worked in all different aspects of the industry, except for large tree planting, moving big trees. I haven't done any of that. Um, Golly, a lot of my background really goes back to dealing with homeowners associations, community associations, working on commercial sites, residential sites, primarily as a sales arborist for many, many years. And now I am a
So,
consultant.
what made you get into the industry in the first place, then, and where did you start? Let's go back in the day a little.
Oh,
I
let's go
want to
way.
go
You want to
way
go
far
that
back.
far back?
And the reason being
Way
now is
back.
because I'm seeing what you're doing and where you are now, and you're doing really well as far as I'm aware, anyway. And you're also heavily into the education as well.
Wow. So, boy, we're going to really dig in deep here. So, with that, my family, I grew up on a farm in Illinois, not a traditional farm, but more of a, I don't know what you call it, 7 acres, kind of a hobby
Hmm.
farm kind of a thing. My grandfather was a professor at the university. Both of my parents were professors at the university. So I was raised in a very academic environment,
Mm.
to say the least. And, the funny part about it is, as I go back and I think about things, Graham, my grandmother had, before I was even born on the farm, they had built the farm and she had planted, a whole bunch of sweet gum trees along the road, lining the road. And so, I always used to enjoy playing, under the trees and, everything. And we had a couple of creeks running through the farm. And so I'd climb the trees and this and that just as a little boy, you know. I remember times when my mom would come out of the house looking for me. And, I'd be 70 feet up in the top of a sycamore tree. Needless to say, I wasn't letting her know where I was because she would have probably killed me. Surprisingly, I didn't kill myself. And that's kind of how I got started in trees. I always grew up around trees, never really thought a whole lot about trees. When I decided, to go to college, I figured I'd get a degree in biology. That didn't quite work out. Ended up ultimately getting a degree in urban forestry and urban planning. And my goal from the outset was really to become more of an environmental planner, working for a municipality or something like that. And it just so happened that my urban forestry instructor happened to hook me up with a great internship as an arborist. And so I kind of fell into it, so to speak. And, that job, I started out day one dragging brush, just like most everybody here listening today probably started out at some point dragging brush. And from there, I learned how to climb and, advanced myself, finished up college, managed a couple. I was a golf course arborist for a few years and then got into commercial arboriculture, working for a large landscape maintenance company in Chicago, and kind of developed their whole tree division. And then from there, the rest is kind of history. Just kind of stuck with it.
Is that the traditional way that people get into the industry now? I'm just asking because I don't know myself, or things changed a little bit.
And that's a great question, Graham. How do people get into the industry now? I talk to a lot of people that are getting into the industry at some level or another, and it's kind of interesting because there's still a lot of people that get into the industry that way, just drag and brush. They're a grounds person, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then you also see people that are coming from more of an academic side who, may get straight in out of college working as for a municipality or something. You have people that work for volunteer organizations to get interested in tree planting and stuff like that, or even some of the allied nurseries or allied industries like nurseries. And then you even have a lot of foresters who actually, for whatever reason, maybe they weren't able to find a job in the forestry sector, and they kind of get into the urban forestry component. So I think that there's a lot of different entry points into the industry. Ultimately, you need to kind of find your way, and that can be a little bit of a struggle for people.
And what about now? So you've been doing this for years and years, and I've seen Tree Checkup, obviously. Tell us a little bit about that and where you are now and what you're doing now.
The business that I run, Tree Checkup, is a consulting arboricultural firm. And so what our firm does is primarily we're working on site development projects, assisting developers, landowners, really understand the trees on their properties, what trees need to be preserved, what trees can be removed, so that the sites can be developed, help them along with the mitigation calculations, the preservation requirements, basically everything from A to Z as it comes to site development.
Is that something you always wanted to do, or run your own company, or you just kind of fell into that? How did you get started?
Well, after 20 some odd years of working in this industry as a sales arborist, I really felt a need to kind of get away from that. And consulting was obviously the next career step. the most obvious career stuff. And so, I had been dabbling doing consulting work part time, for many years, pick up a little project here or a little project there. And back in about 2019, I went to work for a consulting company for a short time and then went out on my own from there and have built this up to be a pretty successful firm so far. Knock on wood.
And how long have you been doing this now, Tree Checkup? It's a couple of years, I think, right?
Yeah, this is going on 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years now, and
Yeah.
we're growing. We've actually brought in a couple people now to help, assist with some of the field work and everything, and kind of taking some of that burden off me because it's very hard to be out in the field plus doing everything else that goes along with it.
Mm. And so the first question we were digging into what makes a successful tree company, and you mentioned the staff and the team. The second thing was the network as well, and then the value that you give people. So how have you managed to do that with Tree Checkup?
Well, hiring the right people, that's key. I've been very blessed to, have met many arborists over the years and, found some people that, really are in alignment with where the company is headed and where we want to go with it. And they particularly like doing a lot of the field work. They don't necessarily want to be a business owner or something like that, because the fact of the matter is, I mean, there's people out there. I think everybody likes the idea of being a business owner. What they don't understand is what the requirements of being a business owner are, because you're wearing every hat at some point, and trying to juggle that can be very, very challenging. And some people, they don't want all that, responsibility. They just want to kind of focus in on things and, work on their reports or doing the field work, things like that. And so I've been very fortunate in finding a couple people that are interested in that. And, that allows me to kind of focus in on some of the other more important aspects of the business.
And then to grow the business and get the initial sales that you've got, did you leverage mostly your network there?
Yeah, it's, again, goes back to networking and building out a good solid network, whether you're working for a small tree care company or you're working for a large company. It's all about establishing a good network of people around you, surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. And I've been very, very fortunate that with Florida Urban Forestry Council, I've been able to do that and find, a lot of people that, are very much in alignment, and, I'll refer them some business, they'll refer me some business, things like that. So it's been a very, very good thing,
And you're also heavily involved in the Florida Urban Forestry Council as well, aren't you? So you're doing a lot of different things, for sure. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this year I'm president for the Florida Urban Forestry Council, and on average I'm probably putting in about 8 to 10 hours a week working on advancing the council, growing the council, and it's a lot of work. But ultimately, the dividends, even though it's not a paid position or anything like that, the dividends are I get to meet a lot of people out there, got to learn a lot of different new things, and have that opportunity to really kind of spread the word and give back to the community. And I think that's really where a lot of where I sit with things is. It's not a matter of, just sitting on things, but actually giving it to other people and helping raise them up because I really truly believe if we can, all be better together, we're going to raise everything.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And a lot of us business owners just start business to go out and make money, but things don't work like that because you can't work in isolation by yourself, right?
Well, here's the reality, Graham. If you know, we all know that you need money to live. I mean, I don't know about you. I like to eat. I like to have a roof over my head. I think most people are in that same bucket. But the reality of it is if you're just in business to solely make money, you're probably not very happy. And you have to find something that's going to make you happy. Find people and surround yourself with people that, you know, help align all of that, create that network around you so that you're constantly inspired to get up every day to go to work.
Hmm.
Who wants to go to that mind numbing job? And we've all had them, you know, and there's nothing wrong necessarily with having a mind numbing job. One of my favorite jobs, actually was while I was in college. Worked as a janitor at the movie theater.
Mm.
Talk about a prestigious job there. But I'll tell you what, I really, truly did enjoy that job because I could set my own pace. I could do my whole thing. If I was there for 2 hours, if I was there for 4 hours, I got paid the same. So maybe that kind of was a little bit in a way kind of a foreshadowing of where I would end up, because in essence, I set my own schedule and set my own pace and all that. But I really enjoyed that job. If I could go back, I probably would do it again.
Oh yeah, I've had jobs like that as well. Kind of a lifestyle job where you can take control of what you're doing, and I'm guessing that's kind of how you're living your work now, if I'm not mistaken. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, I'm conflicted, Graham. I'm really, truly conflicted. I don't know if I'm retired, semi-retired, or if I'm working full time. I'm
Having that much fun.
just having that much fun.
That's awesome.
It's like, boy, yeah, I didn't necessarily get a lot accomplished today, but tomorrow I'm going to get back into the grind and tackle some things. But, every day I get things done. And it's, maybe not necessarily the most pressing thing at the moment that maybe I should be focusing on, but I'm having fun and doing these things. And I'm just very, very blessed that I have the ability to do that. If you're not having fun at what you're doing, find something that's going to make you happy. Find something that's going to get you going, because ultimately at the end of the day, none of us need to be there in this drudgery. Now, sometimes that drudgery is that pathway to get you to where you need to be. And, you have to walk that walk to get to the other side. And I think sometimes people miss that. They see what's that old saying? The grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And so I think that there's times that people get a little mistaken by that.
Yeah, and you see somebody who's semi-retired and having fun like you, but they don't realize the work that you've put in to get to that point.
I'm still putting in 60 to 80 hours a week. I'm just having fun doing it.
Now, also, the tree industry is kind of a family thing, as I understand it, right?
Well, it can certainly be a family kind of a thing. It's an interesting little thing. I've met so many people in the industry that are, second or third generation arborists, and it's interesting to see that because I have 4 kids, and two of my kids are actually involved in the industry. My son, I think you might know my son actually. He started and owns his own tree company.
And he's doing well.
He is doing well.
Yeah.
He's doing really well. And then my middle son, he actually works with me. And so that's a good thing, So it's I guess one of my dreams kind of when I had kids was, kind of want to have them in a family business and that kind of a thing. And it hadn't quite worked out that way, but in a way they're still involved in the industry, so it's kind of interesting to see that. And I think just, teaching my kids things as they were growing up about trees and, really kind of instilling that interest in them, maybe unfortunately got them into it. I gave them the tree bug.
That's cool. And the tree bug, I mean, I'm finding my work so interesting. And, the arborists are such an interesting bunch of people as well who, for the most part, seem to love what they do, for sure.
This is the kind of business, and I'll tell you this, and I'm sure everybody listening will agree with this, Graham. The tree business, particularly if you're out in the field doing the cutting and pruning and all of that, the tree business is the kind of business where you either love it or you hate it. There really is no in between. It's you either love it or you hate it. If you hate it, you're going to get out.
What about your journey through Tree Checkup? Is there any what's one lesson you wish you had learned early on, I suppose is my question. And, were there any painful mistakes along the way that maybe molded you into where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of painful lessons, just in business in general, it's really kind of figuring out who your ideal client really is. That's always a challenge, and it always kind of seems to be evolving. You never really quite seem to nail it. You would think it's something, I could just sit down and write that down, and it never seems to be a complete picture. And then getting again, making the connections with the right people. I think that can sometimes be challenging, because sometimes it's easy to get hooked in with maybe people that aren't good for you. And, so really understanding healthy relationships and, things like that are important as well.
How do you define good people from the wrong people?
That's
a tricky one.
I know. I don't really want to necessarily go there. Let's just say, I've had a couple bad experiences getting tied in with people that ultimately were maybe taking advantage of me.
Different perspectives on how to do things, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I mean, I wouldn't say that people are bad, but it's just, it's just the vision was not shared. Let's put it that way. Maybe that's the better way of kind of putting it, And I mean, I appreciate where I've been and the things that I've done and the things that I've learned, because ultimately that's what shapes you as an individual and helps you grow and be better. I always like to say, one of my very first bosses when I got in the tree industry, did not treat me very well. And, I made a commitment to myself. Well, that's how I was treated. I'm not going to treat anybody that way.
Mm.
And so I've really, in my entire life, I've really kind of focused on trying to treat people the right way that I feel that they should be treated. And, it's funny because, my daughter, she's in the Navy. She just got promoted. And it's kind of that conversation I've had with her. I'm like, look, there's the way that you've been treated by some of these people. Is that really the way that you want to be treated? And you don't have to do that. She's in a leadership position now, so she needs to lead people. And the best way to lead people is through example.
And what about now? Is there something that's really that you're working on now that's getting you fired up and excited?
Oh boy.
Getting away from the people thing and the fit, like I want to start talking about what you're doing now and what's going on in the future, and maybe talk a little bit about arborist mentoring as well, because you're heavily into arborist education, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. So I can't give away too many things just yet. Um, as you know, I have an online community that's for arborists, so it's by an arborist for arborists. And so we're actually I'm looking at really kind of going in and rebranding that. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to turn it into something a little bit bigger. And when I say bigger, it really boils down to I think that we as an industry can do a lot better as far as promoting ourselves, promoting the industry as a whole, promoting proper, good tree care. And I think that, we need a medium to help do that. And that's what I would like to see that kind of evolve into is, I don't know, um, kind of the PBS for proper tree care, something like that. I don't know, but like I say, I don't want to get too deep into that because that's kind of in the works and kind of partnering with a couple people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need as an industry to start looking at adopting some smarter technologies and working to improve not only ourselves, but really educating the homeowners. I hear these stories from other arborists about how, oh, they got on an airplane, they were talking to stewardess. Stewardess asked them, well, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm an arborist. What's an arborist?
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that a person like a stewardess that sees hundreds of people a day would come across an arborist periodically. Now, maybe most tree people don't fly. I don't know. But the reality of it is, I don't think that arborist needs to be a household term, but it should be something that people are familiar with and understand what it is. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that person works with trees. And
Mm-hmm.
they need to understand the difference between an arborist and a certified arborist and understand the difference between being maybe a certified arborist and a master arborist. Or what is the difference and why would you call a consulting arborist? Those are important things to kind of help distinguish things. And I think that there's a lot that can be done to really improve the industry image And, it goes beyond just adopting standards. It really involves having what I would call a smart tree care community.
And I guess the question I want to ask is how can, until that community is in place, how can tree service companies and people who work in the industry help educate the homeowners and the business owners, or is it something that they're not really good at?
Mm, I think the challenge is that there are. I think most of your certified arborists out there that have a fair amount of experience are pretty good at maybe educating a lot of their clients, but it's like a drop in the bucket.
Mm.
You get one client, they understand, and then it's like on to the next one. We as an industry need to do a better job of kind of marketing ourselves as a whole. And so that's, I'm looking at one of the companies that actually does like some marketing videos and things like that to actually at the point where you're doing an estimate and looking at kind of teaming up with them because they've got some really great stuff as far as that goes to help um, educate clients that are shopping for tree services. And they've shown, some really fantastic results, of basically 20% or greater increase in close rates, for
Mm.
example. And it's pretty cool stuff. It's pretty cool
Mm.
stuff. But, like I said, it's a little premature at the moment to do a deep dive into that. That would be a future podcast, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. Love to talk about that some more in the future. So where are you heading now with Tree Checkup in particular? In the next year or two, do you have any goals that you can share with us? Any thoughts about how you're going to get there?
Boy, that's another great question. I think, Tree Checkup as a company, is the focus there is really kind of continuing to grow the consulting aspect of it,
Mm.
with the arborist mentoring, you know, we didn't really even talk about that too much. Have the online community, I kind of tossed out, gave a teaser there of what that name might end up being. I don't know if you picked that up, but, um, along with that, have a course there to help people that aren't certified get certified, offering some CEU opportunities, things like that. So I really see my passion kind of shifting. I enjoy the consulting aspect of things, but ultimately I want to give back to the industry
Mm.
and really help other arborists do a better job out there. And whether it be, understanding various aspects of business, of tree health, um, things like that, or, giving them a sense of community that they can all join in on and, really promote educating the homeowners because at the end of the day, I can touch how many trees a day? I could touch a bunch of trees a day, maybe what, 100 trees a day, say? But if I can take 10 arborists and teach them to do better, what kind of an impact is that going to
Mm.
be?
Hmm.
And that's the kind of things that really interest me because it's really having an impact on the industry as a whole. Um, and I think that that's a good thing.
And you're right. Like we haven't touched on the arborist mentoring or the CEUs or any of the work you've done there. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Oh boy.
Can you touch on that a lot?
I could touch on that. I'll touch on that just a little bit. So yeah, I put together a whole online mentoring course, basically, and along with the community that's being rebranded, like I said, to the Smart Tree Care community in the process. The Arborist Accelerator, which is actually the course, the whole goal behind that is for somebody who wants to get certified, who maybe doesn't have the time, kind of actually go through it in bite-sized little segments. I've got every single chapter of the study guide that I literally walk you through, but even beyond that, give you some, insights on how things tie together and stuff like that as well. So it's a little bit above and beyond just the study guide. But, it's a self-paced online course that that somebody that wants to get certified can go through. Once I'm looking at even extending that into kind of a, well, what's the term I'm looking for? Help me here. I would also like to maybe take those individual chapters and create CEUs for people. That's got, a refresher. That's the word I'm looking
Refresher. For. There you go. That's just what I was thinking.
Refresh my mind. What was I? But I think providing a place a safe place where people can get together and talk and learn and share different things. People that can need CEUs, they can find some CEUs at low cost. Having a way where employees, it's hard. When you're working 8, sometimes 10, maybe even 12 hours a day, how do you go out and get certified? At the end of the day, you're tired, you've worked all day, and you want to come home and spend time with your family. And, if you can do that in little bite-sized pieces as opposed to, I'm going to sit down and spend an hour or two reading the study guide. Or, I've got to go take this class, 3 towns away and spend, half a day on a Saturday or during the work week. It's not real tenable for some people. They need that ability. And some people, they do well with that. It's all videos, and then they got little sections that you can read. So every video is between 2 and I think the longest video is maybe 17 minutes. So literally somebody on their lunch break could sit down and learn something out of the study guide and get that hopefully embedded into their brain. At the end of each session or of each module, there's a quiz to test, and you got to get an 80% before you can move on to the next. So it's not just check the boxes. You actually got to learn some stuff and be able to
learn some stuff and pass something.
Exactly. Right. And that's the whole goal behind that, because I said, I want arborists to walk away being better and not just be average or, I just passed the test. No, you need to do better than just passing the test.
Yeah. And the work that you're putting into this, into the Arborist Accelerator, that's available to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll make sure we have the details there, and people can also get in contact with you as well if they're interested.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Try not to make this too pitchy, but
I have to pitch a little bit for you, John.
And I appreciate that, Graham. I really do. I think it's, that's probably one of my biggest failings is that, I'm not out there necessarily rah as much as I could.
Oh, sure. Be. And and you're one of the most helpful, knowledgeable people out there that I've met, and it would be a shame if you were just squirreled away there with nobody taking advantage of that.
Well, I've got
So
I've got a whole group. In fact, in just a couple days, we're going to be meeting again, kind of as a group. We've been meeting about once a month to kind of cover each chapter,
mhm,
and that's worked out really, really well. They're
great,
enjoying it. They're really getting into it, and I'm looking forward. One of them's actually already gotten certified, and so I'm looking to
fantastic.
see the rest of the
Mhm.
group get certified.
Fantastic. Well, John, we're coming up to the top of the hour here, so that's kind of it for now. But it'd be really interesting to meet up again in the future and dig into some of that secret stuff that you're working on. That would be very cool indeed.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. You know, don't
Um,
want to give away all the secrets.
don't want to give away all the secrets. So, where can people find you if they wanted to get in contact with you and see what you're up to?
Well, the best place is, if you're on LinkedIn, which you should be. If you're not on LinkedIn,
It's a good pitch
you
for
kind of don't
LinkedIn.
exist,
Yes.
because that's where all the professionals really get together.
Hmm.
And yeah, that is a good pitch for LinkedIn. I'll send them a bill after this. the Get on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me. I'm connected with, you know, many thousand arborists across the United States and across the world. I enjoy talking with other arborists, and I post pretty frequently on LinkedIn. I encourage people to add a comment, give me a thumbs up. That all kind of helps boost the whole thing. And then, you can always check out my website, treecheckup.com. That's geared more for like developers and planners and engineers, that kind of folks. Or you can also check out arboristmentoring.com.
Fantastic. And I'll make
If you
sure I have
really
the
want to know,
links.
you can always email me at johnsnow@treecheckup.com. There you have it.
There you go. Sorry to cut you off there, John. So I'll make sure that we add all of the details to the show notes here, so people can find you and get in contact with you and
Great.
extract more of that massive knowledge that you have in the tree world as well as the education world too.
I appreciate it. I always enjoy talking with other arborists and kind of finding out what's going on, what's making them tick, what kind of issues they're having, and
Awesome.
giving them a little bit of direction and insights. And hopefully I can help people be a little bit better.
Thanks so much for joining me, John.
Thanks. Appreciate
Have
you.
yourself a good one. Take care.
Okay. Bye bye.